Hey, how's it going, fight fans? Welcome to Mind for Combat. If you're new to the channel, my name's Rohan, and in this video I'll be breaking down the upcoming Women's Strawweight World Championship fight between China's own Zhang Weili as she looks to defend her belt for the second time against Rose Namajunas. Now, Rose Namajunas, the former world champion, is coming off a revenge victory of her own as she took out Jessica Andrade. Now, this is a very important fight in the division. It's a very, very big fight generally. I'm really excited about this one, and when you consider both of their style sets and skill sets and how long they've been around in the UFC and all the great stuff they've both done, this is a true world championship top tier fight. I'm glad they didn't do the Joanna rematch straight away with Zhang, and this is a better fight for me anyways, and it's one that I'm really looking forward to breaking down. Anyways, with that said, let's go through the tape and let's break this one down step by step. These are two young ladies, both in their physical prime and athletic primes, and at 31 for Zhang and 28 for Rose, age really isn't going to be a factor in this fight. They're both in their prime, they're both at the best they're going to be, and they've both got a long time to go. I think when you consider the experience they've had, and they've had quite a few fights, both of them. For Rose, maybe not so much in numbers, but she's had some wars in the UFC. Maybe in a couple of years there's something to consider. But coming into this fight, they're both in their prime, they're both at the top of the game. This is what legacy is made of, fights like this. Zhang comes into the fight with a record of 21 wins and 1 loss, and she fights Rose Namajunas, who is 9-4. Now, their records are vastly different, but I think it's important to note that Zhang came into the UFC with, I believe, a 16-1 professional mixed martial arts record. She was a very experienced fighter by the time she had already come into the UFC, whilst Rose Namajunas was 2-1 when she signed with the UFC, coming off the Ultimate Fighter where she had 3 wins, and then she's obviously fought for a world title against Carla Esparza in her 4th professional fight. That's a rough place for any rookie to be in, and I think she's really grown under the lights, and her record doesn't really do her justice, but she's revenged a couple of those losses, and I think she would beat some of the other girls that have beaten her for sure anyway. So this is a very, very exciting time. Experience shouldn't be a factor in this fight. Zhang stands at 5'4", which makes her an inch shorter than the 5'5" Rose Namajunas, who will also enjoy a 2-inch reach advantage with a 65-inch reach as opposed to Weili's 63-inch reach. Now, there's a bit of difference there. Rose tends to use her movement to set up her strikes. I think she moves real well. I think she's a really talented, good striker, and she hits hard. She carries big power, so it's going to be interesting to see how she utilizes that. Now, speaking of that, let's talk about their fighting styles a little bit. So when we're talking about Zhang, we're talking about a fighter who's really, really physically imposing and strong. She's strong in the clinch, and she likes to utilize that. I think some of the best work that she does is in her clinch. She fires really fast. She's got power in her punches. So, you know, she's dangerous all round. Yes, she's got wrestling. Yes, she's got grappling skills. But to me, where Zhang shines is in her stand-up, with her power, with her speed, and in the clinch particularly. I think she's a very, very strong woman. For Rose, I think she's more of a movement-based striker. She carries big power in her hands. We've seen against Joanna what she can do with her hands, and we've seen against Michelle Waterson what she can do with her kicks as well. So Rose is all-round very, very dangerous. She's a dangerous fighter. She has all the skills, and where she shines for me as well, and an area that we don't see much from Rose lately, is in her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think she's actually got a really dangerous Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game. She's good with her guard. Younger in her career, when she was a bit wilder, she used to do like flying triangle arm bars and stuff like that. So I think Rose can be very unpredictable in a lot of ways. I don't think that's what she'll be doing in this fight, but if it does go to the mat, I will certainly give the advantage to Rose. Let's talk about some of their key wins. For Zhang, the 2 wins that stand out for me is against Jessica Andrade, who she actually absolutely demolished, and then of course her absolute war with Joanna a little more than a year ago now, which was just such an incredible fight, such a fun fight, but it was an absolute war and a banger of a fight. Rose has a bit more of a lengthy resume when it comes to key wins, actually, as it stands, because she's beaten Joanna twice. She of course finished her in the first fight. In the second fight, that was a much closer fight, but Rose stood out still to me. She's of course beaten Jessica Andrade to rematch that loss, to revenge that loss even. She's got her wins over Michelle Waterson, which is a good fighter. She's of course beaten the likes of Angela Hill in her career as well. She's beaten Tecia Torres. She's beaten a lot of good fighters. So these are 2 fighters with lengthy resumes as well. When we're talking about issues for Zhang, I think one of the issues that stands out for me, especially in the Joanna fight, where for 25 minutes she engaged in an incredible war, is that she is hittable. I think being that hittable exposes you a little bit. Just because you have faith in your chin and your power to return fire doesn't mean you should be getting in those exchanges, but she is someone that relies on her chin in that way, so I think that's something that bears witnessing in this fight. For Rose, I think the biggest issue is going to be that she's also hittable. We've seen in a fight with Jessica Andrade that she fades a little as well sometimes, which I don't think will be the case in this fight. I think she'll come in well prepared, and I think it's the mental edge as well that I always wonder with Rose Namajunas. Where is she mentally coming into this fight? The X factor for Weili, or Weili, Zhang, let's call her Zhang, is going to be her strength. I think her strength is very physically imposing and the mental edge that she does have. And for Rose, I think her edge is going to be in her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I think punching power in her hands as well. I think she carries good power. I think that's something that Zhang should be concerned about. With that said, let's get into the prediction. A very, very fun fight. It's a very important fight, and it's one that I believe will be settled on defeat. I think Zhang will be able to defend all takedown attempts by Rose, and on defeat, I think Rose will get comfortable on defeat and decide, actually, let's do this on defeat. Now, what comes to my mind when I'm thinking about this fight is, what is going to stand out? Is it going to be Rose's movement and her boxing and her long kicks, or is it going to be Zhang's pressure, clinch, and punching speed? Now, we've seen both of them shine in fights against similar opponents. We've seen both of them have varying results against similar opponents, i.e., Rose had a mental lapse against Jessica Andrade, but she looked completely dominant against Joanna in the first fight, whereas Zhang, she had a war with Joanna. The difference is I think Joanna came in very, very prepared for her fight with Zhang, and that's why the fight played out the way it did. When we're looking at both of these fighters, another thing that I like to consider is the momentum coming into this fight. For Rose, she of course revenged her loss. She may feel like she's on top of the world again, because that was the fight where she lost her belt, and the only fight that she's had since then, she won that fight back. So in her mind, does she almost attribute herself as being a champion? Is she coming in riding that momentum? But for Zhang, no doubt she sees herself as a champion coming into this fight, because she is, and she's riding one hell of a wave. I believe she's on a 21 fight win streak. I think she lost her debut fight, and I think since then she's been undefeated. So it's a very, very tough fight to call. But when it comes down to the crunch, I think the difference is going to be Zhang's strength and her ability to hold Rose in the clinch, and I think she'll do a lot of damage in the clinch. I think Zhang is going to have the edge when it comes to the speed as well, and I think she's smart enough to work her way in to cut the slight distance that Rose is going to be enjoying on her and be able to land some shots that matter. I think Rose is going to tire as the fight goes on, and as we've seen with Zhang, she has incredible conditioning. Fight fans, I'm going with Zhang Weili Zhang. I'm going to try to get that name right. I got told how to say it properly last time, so I'm doing my best there. I'm going to go with Zhang to get the win, and Zhang is going to walk away as the world champion still in what's going to be an incredible, tightly contested, tough fight. And really it's a 60-40 fight. I give the 60 to Zhang. This is why I'm picking her. But what I want to know is who you guys are picking, or ladies, who all of you are picking, and just comment below. Let me know how you see this fight going. Let me know if you enjoyed my breakdown. If you're new here, remember to like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Thank you for watching. I'm Rohan, and this is Mindful Combat.